is that we don't really have to do anything. We just have to like optically make moves like this, like make PR moves like this and say Trump is bad. We're against Donald Trump, but never at a moment when they actually have to do it. And I know people are going to yell at me and say, Hasan, you're such a leftist nuisance, blah, blah, blah. In any case, here is Cory Booker.
Deficits in the trillions and trillions of dollars? Or are we going to do something different like John Lewis would call us to do? He would call us...
We're in the final 5 minutes of Cory Booker breaking the record that previously was held by segregationist Strom Thurmond against the Civil Rights Act.
John, don't hate each other.
He is now at 100,000 live viewers.
Hate them. I said this about the presiding elder. Different parties, but he showed me an act of kindness during this speech. He and I have talked about energy policy. He has amazing ideas. I want to partner with him. Don't hate anybody. Did the folks in Birmingham?
Couple to them?
Martin Luther King, Fred Shuttlesworth, Dorothea Cotton, James Bevel, did some bigger fire hoses to match the sheriff's. Bull Connor, thank you. I've been standing here a long time. They didn't do that. They were creative artists of activism. They called...
Dude, libs are going crazy mode over this, by the way. They're locked in. They're dialed in. They love this. 140,000 on the Associated Press. The one good thing about this, I will say, the one good thing about this is that there is appetite for a lot of people. There is appetite from a lot of people that want to see Democrats do something, anything. Now, of course, this is still, you know, it's an optics play in general. And I hope the lessons that the Democrats learn from this isn't make an optics play with no tangible results, but instead to actually recognize that people are very angry, people have a lot of resentment towards this administration, and to organize and to mobilize. I do fear that liberals will only learn the wrong lesson from this.
But as long as this is a democracy, that we can still protect the power of the people is greater than the people in power if they use their power. As a great African-American woman author once said, the most common way people give up their power is not realizing they have it in the first place. I've been calling out names, folks, to tell them they have power. I read the stories of Deanna, of Wendy and Cassie, of Tanya, of Cameron, of Jean, of Susan, of Edna, of Randy, of Dylan, of Teresa, of Pamela, of Sally, of Mike, of Carol, of Rosemary, of Danielle, of Judith, of Elizabeth, of Sandra, Alicia, Maggie, Nibel, Laura, Michael, Robin, Mary, Allison, Ash, Roseanne, Carrie, Samantha P., Raphael, Will, Anthony, Sean, and so many more. I read their stories here because while we were elected, they are the power of our country. I've made mistakes. We all have. Both parties have a lot of mistakes to account for. The ballast of this country, what will anchor us to our ideals, what will call us to new heights, lift our heads, lift our hopes, what will call us to rise is each other. We need each other. We need a greater love in this country. We need a greater fight in this country. We need a greater determination. We can't act as if this is normal times. These people's stories that I wrote were calling out for help. Senator, help me. Someone help me. I'm in danger of losing my health care. Someone help me. I'm a veteran. Look what happened to me. It's not fair. I fought for this country. Help me, help me. I'm worried about my Social Security. And the rural office I go to is being closed. Help. People calling out for help. And what Americans do when people are calling out for help? They built an infrastructure. The greatest project ever, called it the Underground Railroad, where Quakers, white folks, joined with black folks to shuttle people to freedom. What did they do when people were worried and fearful? They called people together from across our country. Let's have a conference. Let's go to Seneca Falls. What did they do when they faced violence? Well, look at the people at Stonewall who stood up, who pushed back, who organized, who won. What do they do when the dogs are unleashed on us, the fire hose are unleashed on us? Look at what they did in Selma.
He's loving this, dude.
I'm getting close to a record, folks, but there's a room here in the Senate named after Strom Thurmond. To hate him is wrong.
No, it's
maybe
okay.
My ego got too caught up that if I stood here, just maybe I could break this record of the man who tried to stop the rights upon which I stand. I'm not here, though, because of his speech. I'm here despite his speech. I'm here because as powerful as he was, the people were more powerful.
Like, the irony is that Strom Thurmond did that for a specific purpose, right? So that, you know, people like Cory Booker, black people, would never be able to, you know, would never have the same liberties as white people.
Decades later, he was a congressman.
Like, Cory Booker's doing this right now in this very moment against no bill, no policy.
I heard about this story when I was in the car in Georgia with him.
It is so...
What did you do, John? This man that so viciously beat you.
Perfectly Democrat Party, like modern-day Democrat Party. By the way, Strom was also a Democrat, ironically enough, a Dixiecrat.
What did you do? And a good Christian man of faith, simply said, every one of us needs mercy.
Randy Fine won.
Every one of us needs redemption.
Against Josh
I forgave
Whale.
him. I hugged him. We wept. And I looked at the boy.
Damn, they came in close.
John?
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
All right, search Rosario Dawson on Twitter. Cory Booker just asked his girlfriend, Rosario Dawson, why his girlfriend likes Bernie more than him. This is the throwing themselves on the railroad tracks they promised? No, it's not, because there's no train. No, this is Democrats throwing themselves. This is Cory Booker throwing himself on the railroad track after the train killed like 30 families and then passed by, and he knows there's no new train coming. And it's crazy that, oh God, liberals are eating, dude. Liberals are eating this. We all laughed at him, but who's laughing now? I don't even like Cory Booker, but this is exactly the kind of performance shit Democrats should have been doing when there's more substantial option available. Also, this is why it's nice to have senators under the age of 70. I mean, that is true.
Sir does not wish to take away from this moment, but I think the best way to honor this great accomplishment to our guests in the gallery, to make a rare exception and let you stand to show your appreciation, I will not constrain my fellow senators.
Thank you. I'm Chuck Schumer. I have yielded for a question, and you asked me, did I know? I know now. I want to not quite wrap this up yet. I don't want to wrap this up yet. My mom's senator. My mom's been watching. I know Catherine Cortez Masto has a podium in front of her. She can give me a rest. I'd like to go a little further if we can, just a little further. I love, and again, I know people are trying to train each other, and all of our media operations, they give the worst images of the people of the other party. But I want to tell you, one of the funny tweets my staff gave me is something Ted Cruz said. Is he's around 19, 20 hours, he said, maybe I should pull a fire alarm. He's going to break my record. I'm going to pause in a moment.
How is this a filibuster if it's not filibustering anything? Is it just yapping? Yes, it is.
My mother, but I do want to just say again, 2 points to make if I can. One is how grateful I am.
So do you hate this stuff? Because I don't know personally.
When we decided to do this
the only
days
thing
ago,
that I get annoyed by is that Democrats think this is a pure optics play, which is fine. I don't have an issue with a pure optics play. Okay? But Democrats, like the base, will get really excited at this and will go, oh, okay, you've given us nothing, but we're happy that you're at least like wasting energy. He's not delaying anything. There's no like bill that he is delaying. I mean, if he goes long enough, maybe he can eventually they're going to have to pass a bill. He'll delay that.
Funding goes below 90%. They stopped the Medicaid expansion. My staff really worked hard to not make this just Democratic voices, to make it people in our country, that Republicans and Democrats, you heard mentioned in the speech, the Cato Institute, the Manhattan Institute, all people who are honest arbiters and are saying that what Trump is doing is wrong. That
no, Manhattan Institute is not an honest arbiter. What the f is wrong with you? They are literally responsible for Christopher Rufo, DEI, CRT. All of that shit came from the Manhattan Institute. God damn, I hate liberals. Oh my God. You don't have to hand it to the Manhattan Institute, man. Even with Cato, when it comes to immigration, sure, but Cato is a libertarian think tank. The f are you talking about?
They did such a good job bringing together authorities on both sides of the aisle. I just want to thank them. I want to thank my cousin Pam and my family. Cousin Pam, like Chris Murphy, was here for the whole time. I want to thank Chris Murphy again. Who never stopped telling me we could do this, we can do this, we can do this, and said, I will stay with you. He's been with me on the floor. I hope you don't look as tired as I look. Beat, man. Do I look that bad? No. All right. I want to go a little bit past this, and then I'm gonna deal with some of the biological urgencies I'm feeling. But I'm going to wait here because I have the power, I have the floor. Somebody has to ask me, perhaps from my mom's state, the way that's supposed to work.
So will the good senator from New Jersey yield her
I don't think it's a net negative. It's a net negative if
Marilyn, my uncle.
It's a net negative if the Democrats are like, this is the way, which is a filibuster without any real direction, any bill, okay, and just simply an optics play. Then it's a net negative. It's a net positive if the Democrats recognize the popular momentum behind even fucking optics plays like this that causes them to go, okay, we have to resist. We have to resist no matter what. Like, we have to do something, anything. So as it stands, it's a net neutral, I will say. It's positive because at least the Democrats are doing something. Holy fuck. But if the lessons that they learn from this, which is likely to be the lesson that they will learn from this, is that we don't really have to do anything. We just have to like optically make moves like this, like make PR moves like this and say Trump is bad. We're against Donald Trump, but never at a moment when they actually have to do it. And I know people are going to fucking yell at me and say, Hasan, you're such a fucking leftist nuisance, blah, blah, blah. Like he is doing something bold and brave or whatever. But you have to understand, this should have happened last week or 2 weeks ago. This should have happened. Yeah, everyone is so proud. This should have happened against the continued resolution. That's where they should have filibustered. A filibuster without a bill that they're stopping is not a filibuster. It's just yapping.
For it to support caregivers and their families. And Congress just reauthorized this funding. And now we have a president that has stopped
I'm not the one homie that's too woke, man. I'm telling you actually what this is.
To your attention.
I want to add praise and appreciation for Senator Booker. Hope he's able to keep going. Props to them asking him questions. Thank you, Senator Booker. You're such an inspiration. Yeah, people are that fucking desperate. I look at this. It's symbolic, you idiot. Wait, what?
And she died at a time in Las Vegas when there
That's
was
what I'm
not
saying.
enough research, when there was not enough health care.
Yeah, I'm the one who's saying it's symbolic. I'm saying it's symbolic. If it's pure symbolism and the Democrats only go after pure symbolism and not direct action, then it's just symbolism. Why are fucking liberals literally still doing this after Donald Trump has put his dick through every orifice of the fucking federal administrative state? What are you saying right now? This is in a way, maybe it's not as Herculean of a task of Nancy Pelosi kneeling because she is physically incapable of doing such things, but it is an analog to Nancy Pelosi kneeling with a kente cloth. You understand that, right? That's symbolism.
Las Vegas. And he's continued to cut the grant for essential research for so many reasons. We've seen these funding cuts, we've seen mass layoffs, and the impoundment of grants that have already been approved by Congress. This is a violation of the rule of law, and you have been talking about that for the last couple of hours. President Trump is forgetting that this is personal. It is happening to so many families. So my question, Senator Booker, to you is, what do you think families and caregivers of those impacted by Alzheimer's, how they are feeling about what is happening right now?
So this bothers me for two reasons, and the first you've already mentioned is this is the points of bipartisan work that we do. I talked about Chris Murphy.
Part of Booker's comms
of
his caucus gain exposure and traction in D.C. dominated by Trump GOP seems like a mission at least somewhat accomplished.
My state is that some of that community violence intervention money that I worked so hard to get in that bill is being clawed back by a president. There are people in this room, I know so many of you, and I know on the other side, that have done such great work to work with our colleagues to find common ground and get really important programs passed that bring resources to families. And it's being clawed back by a president, not with consultation, not with a hearing, not with a discussion of even why you would target Alzheimer's research. That is a violation of the separation of powers. And I wish my Republican colleagues would hold more hearings about that. These are programs that they like. I saw that with USAID. I worked with Marco Rubio on some of that programs and those investments that are now been cut and clawed back.
Yeah, I wonder why.
So it's a separation of powers issues. It's an offense to the common goals that we share in this community of leaders. But the second reason it bothers me is an article I read hours ago by Fareed Zakaria.
You want Schumer's spot so bad, this has to be at least just a little selfish to push for that leadership spot, right? I mean,
that cuts so dramatically what is one of the best taxpayer investment dollars.
He's not filibustering anything, chatters. He's not. He's just filibustering some bitches, okay? He's not filibustering anything.
$1 you invest, you would get $5 back for your economy. Folks would be invested in that vehicle. Well, that's NIH funding. Every dollar you invest, who would cut a profit center? It's not just a profit center, though. The outcomes, the discoveries.
My analysis of Congress is that every single one of them, even the ones I like, okay, and there's not many, is that they're all a bunch of vultures, lecherous sharks, okay? And therefore, that is the framework that I analyze their movements through. For me, right now, there's a knife fight behind the scenes in the Democratic Party for who will lead the way in 2028. That's why Chris Murphy is doing what he's been doing. I'm sure he's not very excited about what Cory Booker's been doing as well, because it kind of takes away from what he's been trying to do. And that's why Cory Booker's been doing this. Okay? That's it. It's not the party propping him up. He's using the influence that he has as a senator to be able to do such things. That's it. Yeah, that's also the reason why Chuck Schumer inserted himself in that last moment to tell him that he was there for the record break.
Will it be Democratic values, or will it be the values of the country that's competing with us to beat us, and right now we're giving them a head start? And then the final reason that question bothers me is because my father died of Parkinson's. And
Chris Murphy's been with him all night. No, I'm saying Chris Murphy probably hates this personally because he's like, damn it, he took the spotlight away from me.
And my mom, we were in the movie theater.
I assume always that they are in contest with one another for party leadership.
In Georgia. And so many people here in this room
have had the
same experience.
I'd be fucking seething.
We're in a movie theater, and
did you hear his love for Israel rants? Oh my God.
You need to take your dad to the bathroom. I never imagined the years of my dad as a 2-year-old and 3-year-old taking me to the bathroom, that one day I'd have to take him. And so in this Atlanta movie theater, in the middle of a movie, which I was like, okay, it's time for me to do this ritual that so many families know.
So the chatter's asking, yes, he loves Israel, chat. Yes, he fucking absolutely loves Israel.
I'm not seeing any light in his eyes that he's there. I'm just letting him hold me, and he's shuffling into the bathroom.
He literally welcomed Yoav Gallant, okay? He personally hung out with Yoav Gallant, the war criminal, when he was in America.
So many families know this, and my ego, I'm sorry, I was leaning over and I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm in a public bathroom, leaning over, I'm buckling another man's pants. Please, please, God, don't let somebody come in. And as if God heard my call, someone walked in. And I hear the person walk, and I'm like, just please keep walking. Go into a stall, please keep walking. And then suddenly I hear the feet walk past me and stop. And then the man turns around and says, oh my God, Cory Booker. And then I look up at my dad, and I see the clarity in his eyes.
There he is.
He is 100%
there.
There
he is. I saw an unmistakable bald head, or balding head. Christopher Murphy.
Alzheimer's is devastating so many American families who are watching the loved one of their lives diminish. And we're cutting funding. Donald Trump is cutting funding, democratically, bipartisanly approved. So forget the separation of powers. It's important. It's so important. If that doesn't get you, then maybe think about the competition with China. If that doesn't get you, those two don't get you, America.
Oh, think about how much more we can do for Israel.
Think about the millions of Americans struggling with Alzheimer's, the struggles it does to those families. This is a moral moment, America. This is going to define the character of our country for years and years to come. Has the Senate called a hearing on your bipartisan funding, Senator? No. Have we done our oversight responsibility? Have we checked, as I read from the Federalist Papers, as our founders wanted us to do, is to check the executive, be the check at the executive that balances our governmental powers? No, we're not checking that executive. With Signalgate, I have heard from Republicans that serve in Congress, of the 535 with us, I know other colleagues here have heard, they're mortified. You talked about that. Mortified about that. And again, this is not partisan. The Biden administration made foreign policy mistakes. Obama made foreign policy mistakes. Reagan, when I was growing up, I was hearing about the Iran-Contra scandal. So I'm not going to be one of those peoples that the pristine, perfect Democrats. We've made mistakes. We've made failings. We've let the public down. We have some reckoning in our own party that we're working on right now. But that doesn't say that you should just be one of these people that says, well, Biden did it. No, you should be a leader of character that says there's something wrong here. And in fact, it could point to real problems in the national security of our country and the laws that we established. One of those laws is very simple. You're supposed to preserve records. How can a signal chain that disappears not be a violation of the law of this land? Is there a hearing on that? Head of the Intel Commission, not a hearing at all. Where are the checks and balances spelled out in the Constitution? We are derelicting our duties here in the Senate. We really are. And the consequences of that is the very national security of our country. How many times do you think this was the first time they created a signal chat? Or is this a pattern of practice? You're a really rational man. I keep looking at you, Mark. You're my leader on these issues, or Jack Reed. No, this indicates a real problem, and the Senate, the United States Senate, should get to the bottom of it. This is a moral moment. I keep saying it's a moral moment. Who are we going to be? What's going to define us? And it's time not for the typical tribalism. It's time for leaders to start standing up and saying, you know what? We can go a different way. We can imagine a different country. That's why I pointed out the new leader of the Democratic Party on the House side. We're a different generation. There's a rising generation of people. I've talked about my friend who wrote this great book, Abundance. There's a whole bunch of new ideas out there that are about the future, about the possibilities, about the hope, about the greatness of America, not the greatness that is braggadocious, not the greatness that says, I'm better than you, not the greatness that says, only I can fix things. That's not the America we want. We want America that says, we the people. An America that says, e pluribus unum. An America says that our history shows that rugged individualism and self-reliance are important values, but rugged individualism didn't beat the Nazis. It didn't take us to the moon. We did that together, America. We need bigger visions that can unite us beyond our narrow partisan decides to get a real mandate. And you know what a real mandate should be? It should be government efficiency. It really should be. God, I have heard from so many of my colleagues on this side of the aisle that have said, if they formed a commission of former executives in this body, I see you, Maggie Hasan, it was hard, but I had to cut 24% of my budget, 1 out of 4 employees. It was really hard, caused a lot of pain, but we had to reduce my government. There are a lot of people here, there are executives on both sides of the aisle that would have said, pick me, let's form the most exciting team possible. Because Jack Reed knows that the military of the United States of America could do things more efficiently. It's a little bit of waste over there because they haven't passed an audit. Where's Mary Cantwell? The Commerce Committee. So many ideas about how to create profit centers in the American government. You have talked to me about them. You're brilliant on some of these ideas. I look around here, but I could look to the other side of the aisle.
Yeah, Cory Booker has received $750,000 from the Israel lobby, for the record. Just pointing that out. There's a reason why, apparently, in the 24 hours that he was doing this record-breaking filibuster against nothing, he mentioned Israel as well.
We passed a big bipartisan bill because people like him, like the presiding officer, I've met with you, you still have big ideas. You still have big ideas that aren't partisan.
He also never went to Congress to vote in 2020.
From his inaugural address to his first speech before a joint session of Congress said enough.
He's making up for it. He's making up for it now by being inside of those hallowed halls longer than anyone else should be without taking a single piss or dookie.
In America for all Americans. I trust the genius of America, the kindness and the decency, but this president doesn't do that. He violates all of our common senses of decency. And don't say it doesn't happen, folks.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about.
I listen to him. I listen to how he talks about people. We have a government now,
in front of Frederick
as I said
Douglass,
earlier,
is nasty.
that isn't ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. We have a country now where a president says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for Donald Trump. And you're seeing who gets the special treatment. Some law firms are really threatened right now with being bankrupted by Donald Trump targeting them. Others have decided a different path. I'm not hating on them, but they said we're going to go to Trump and we're going to offer him.
Why? Hate on him, pussy. Hate on him. Give him the fucking smoke. Say capitulating to fascists is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany. Say it.
In my city, what are the standards here of our government? You want a merger? Well, maybe you should put a lot of money in Donald Trump's meme coin. I read the document, there's something word called emoluments. And we sit by and act like, oh, no big deal. He's made millions and millions of dollars from who we don't know. We haven't held one hearing of oversight to know who is giving him millions of dollars to that meme coin. Is it the Turks? Is it the Saudis? Is it the Chinese?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Chill.
Is it the Russian oligarchs?
Chill. Hey, yo!
Should we know?
Why you say fuck America, me for?
Stop falling into tribal lanes and closing your eyes to things that should not be normalized. Why are we normalizing these things? They're wrong. They're patently on the face of it is wrong.
Man.
If you use signal to discuss a military attack, the time of the attack, the weapons that are going to be used, and you do it on a commercial app and decide to include a reporter, there should be accountability. Am I crazy?
Order. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just remind you, expressions of approval and disapproval are not permitted by the gallery. Thank you.
He was forced to say that. Look at you, defiant man.
No, bad.
The Senate and the House should be checks and balances on the President of the United States. The Senate and the House should not allow business as usual in this moment
Anneme dönüştü.
when the President is insisting that no one has the power to check and balance him. When a judge does it, when a judge decides on the soundness of his legal observations to have a ruling, And then the President of the United States doesn't appeal the ruling like most people kind of do, but starts to drag and insult and threaten that judge with impeachment. And some people, astonishingly, said, oh, that's right, we should impeach this guy. That's not a question of left or right, that's a question of right or wrong. We're normalizing this behavior. We're letting him do things that Republicans and Democrats should say together are wrong.
You live with your mom sometimes.
So
and my
I
dad.
want to say I'm going to stop soon.
And my brother.
Well, for a question?
Oh, yes. God bless you. I will yield for a question while retaining the floor.
What happened to the top of the hour ad breaks? I stopped running them, but you can still subscribe regardless of whether or not we're at the top of the hour. I stopped running ad breaks at the top of the hour or in the middle of the hour when my contract ended, when my contract expired. That was the only reason why I was running ads to begin with, because I had a contractual obligation. But you can still support the stream by subscribing for $6 or for free with the Twitch Prime, or by getting gifted a sub. Subscribing will allow you to use emotes all around the platform, be able to send me links, be able to avoid the follow time limit or the slowdown time limit, things of that nature. It will also maintain my editorial independence. Thanks to H3, the ADL, and D. Saltman, no. I could still run ads as long as I switch it off of the political category.
So I'm proud of that.
So no, it's not because of them at all. I stopped running ads before all that shit happened anyway.
Earlier this afternoon,
I stopped running ads when my contract expired.
rule of law and the overreach of this administration. And as part of that, you went through a litany of agencies that Congress had established.
Say April Fool's, man, you're running ads. Get in the mood. True. I'm going to run an ad break right now. If you want to avoid those ads, all you need to do is subscribe.
And I just wanted to point out that
For
and you mentioned this
$6
earlier,
or for free with
one of
Twitch
those
Prime,
agencies
or by
that
getting gifted a
Congress
sub. But Twitch Prime is free.
the U.S. Agency for International Development. And earlier today, we had a shadow hearing.
Bro, these
roundtable
motherfuckers love USAID so much. It's like the most significant
Foreign
thing.
Relations Committee. It was on the dangerous consequences of funding cuts to U.S. global health programs. And I know that as ranking member on the subcommittee on Africa and global health policy, you would have really been interested in this. I'm glad you were here on the floor, but I wish you could have heard what we heard from the people who testified. We heard from Atul Gawande, who used to be the
So one of the chat said, it's because it employs all their nephews. It's so true.
We heard from Dan Schwartz, who is the Vice President of Management Sciences for Health, that's a contractor that works on global health programs. And we heard from Nick Enrich, who's the former Assistant Administrator for Global Health at USAID. And they started out by talking about what global health has accomplished through USAID.
The reason why Cory Booker is doing this filibuster is not to actually fill time to prevent the passage of a bill. But the reason why he's doing this is because he wants the media cycle that has been dominated. This is his own comms team, okay? Gene Shaheen's ass, I know. His own comms team has said that the reason why they're doing this is because they want to dominate, or they want to fight back in the messaging space that has been completely dominated by right-wing sentiment. Now, I agree with that initiative. I think this is something that you have to do. It also has to be associated or tacked along with like real direct action. When you're in power, it has to also follow up with real policy that you can push through. Or when you're not in power, it has to be disruptive. It has to be directional. It has to stop a bill from passing. Or the platform that you're using and the messages that you put out there have to be disruptive against the Trump administration's dangerous agendas. A big part of what they were supposed to do in this process is a call to action, to mobilize, to remind people of all of the fucking awful things that the Trump administration is doing in terms of like erosion of due process, attacks against colleges, attacks against education across the board, attacks against law firms, which he briefly mentioned as well. Outside of that, it just turns into a circle jerk.
Through USAID has been $9 a household in America in a year. $9. Think about what we've done with that.
This person only cares about USAID
And
is crazy.
As they were going through the litany of programs that have been cut, the one that caught my eye was 75% of the pandemic threat comes from diseases jumping from animals to humans. That program has been terminated. 75% of the threat of future pandemics. So, as we think about rule of law and the overreach of this president, would you agree with me that there has been no consultation with Congress about any effort to move USAID into the Department of State, and that because Congress created this agency, Congress has got to be involved in reauthorizing whatever comes next, and that this president and his Doge boys need to understand that before they take any more steps at USAID?
Yes, yes, yes. You and I both know that in a bipartisan way, we created some of these programs principally to keep America safe. Many of us remember that dramatic hearing where Trump's Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, sat before the American people when they were discussing the budgets for USAID and the State Department. And John Mattis knew the power of those programs to keep us safe. You mentioned infectious diseases. Well, we live in a world where an infectious disease anywhere is a threat to public health everywhere. So pulling our scientists out of the fight against Ebola, pulling our scientists out of drug-resistant tuberculosis fights, it makes no sense. And then, in terms of our safety, he just simply said,
Hopefully this is a changing tide. Have you ever tried not being a hypocrite? No. A true socialist would send me to Tokyo. A true socialist would pay off my debt. Do you ever think you'll be true to your word? That was rage bait, forgive me, but I will do it again. Have you ever tried not being a hypocrite? Lord, forgive me, I will rage bait again. I've done it once, I've done it twice. I will do it 3 more times until I get banned. Catch me in the wrong moment, because right now I'm not angry.
In meetings in a bipartisan way with ambassadors from other countries where we had the moral authority to tell them you're not doing enough. And in the Myanmar crisis right now, as Chris Coons said, who's standing there? Not Americans. We don't have the capacity anymore to help in a horrific crisis like that, but the Chinese government's there. Again, it's what defines us. I keep saying this is not a left-right moment. This is a moral moment, and we tell our truth with what we do with our resources. And here's the thing. When you poll people and ask them how much money you spend on USAID, they say, oh, it must be 10% of the American budget. It must be 5% of the American budget. It's around 1% or less. A penny of what tax dollars you send down to Washington goes to help us make sure that around the globe we're countering the hard power of some countries with the power of our light and our soft power. We have been the envy of the world, where people see and know how special America is because we live the value of every major religion, that we're going to love our neighbors, we're going to be there for you in your times of need. And we all know, with a terrorist group from far away attack, that in a lot of these countries, terrorist groups are trying to counter the democratic governments there. Look in the Sahel region. Look what's happening. When I was in Nigeria, I was shocked to say what they're talking about, instabilities in the north, the threats of terrorism in the north. I'm going to go for 7 more minutes and stop, but I want to use these last 7 minutes to return one more time to the people of my state and actually other states who demanded we do things different, who asked for help. Before I do, I just want to thank Mike Lee today. He's my partner in antitrust, a specialty of my friend.
Why did you vote for
Amy
Trump?
Klobuchar, and I texted,
He's
I don't know if you
making
got
America
my text,
great,
but
God
you got
damn
it.
it. That's why.
Where I said to you, I'm kind of going to the floor to hold it for as long as I can. And I may not make our first subcommittee together on antitrust where we have a lot of common ground. So I'm sorry I missed it today. I know you'll fill me in, but I know my friend filled in. Thank you. So I want to close back where we started about us, about why I'm here.
I'm sorry. I know USAID does does have decent programs in terms of combating famine and stuff, but like as this chatter also correctly pointed out, any moment that you spend talking about USAID inside of Congress without simply hyper focusing on like how it's basically another subsidy for American farmers that Trump is taking away is a wasted moment. And every moment that you talk about USAID, instead of talking about the erosion of due process, the erosion of fucking First Amendment rights, things that Americans do definitely care about, or rather the affordability crisis that Trump is only accelerating instead of fixing, even though he claimed he was going to fix it, is a moment wasted. I don't think Americans broadly give a fuck about USAID, despite the fact that Democrats have talked about it endlessly. And the average American's mind, USAID is just like, you know, trying to trans little kids in Baghdad. That's what they think is going on with Trans Sesame Street. Like, that's what they think. And obviously there are benefits of the program. You could talk about that if you want. That's understandable in order to combat the misinformation. But overall, it is not something that Americans by and large care about. Americans do, however, care about First Amendment. Americans care about free speech. Americans care about due process. And they can be made to care about the First Amendment and due process. They can be made to care about, you know, the upcoming economic collapse. Being a fan of MAGA merch is so lame, Hasan. Take off the fucking hat. Hasan wearing the MAGA hat meme is the equivalent of Kanye and his hood. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm apolitical. Who's Hasan? I'm Hank Pecker. There's no other way that I can signal to people that are watching me. There's no other way to signal to the people that are watching me that I am not political. I am an apolitical man, if you know what I mean, if you catch my drift. I'm apolitical.
Rake up trillions and trillions of dollars in debt that our children and our children's children are going to have to pay for, passing the bucks that will grow.
Also, every single 85-year-old Democratic senator is going to think Cory Booker is the greatest social media monster of all time, since he posted on TikTok and he kicked off his record-setting speech on the Senate floor last night. Now he has almost 500,000 followers overnight. And the live feed on TikTok has received more than 360 million likes. So obviously, they're going to say he's brilliant. He's a genius. He's a social media genius. That's the other side of this.
Not all. Let's not use hyperbole. But most will go to the richest people in our country, who I promise you, I celebrate people who've brought their ingenuity and their expertise and their grit and their tireless work, who've built wealth in this country. Should not be us versus them, but I'm telling you that those folks do not need another tax cut. And the corporations who came here, you all remember, and said we would like a 25% rate. The people I read said that when we kicked it to 21, not even what they were asking for from 35, it exploded. One of the main reasons it exploded our debt. And we read from conservative groups who just said all these promises that we would grow our way out of our deficit, they didn't materialize. All the promises that were made. Trump, for those who don't remember or weren't here when I read it, was going around telling folks that, oh, my tariffs, this is 2017, my tariffs, the money that I get, that will be what we could pay down the debt. The math that they did was that would account for about 1/750th of the debt at that time. But he used that money to try to compensate the farmers that he was hurting with his tariffs. This is a moral moment, and people are getting hurt, and people are afraid because of the threats to Medicaid cuts. There were people writing in and said $880 billion would devastate me, but even small cuts to services, my whole family, fragile architecture of our finances, if you just pull out the transportation money that my disabled child uses, that will crumble my financial world. And so when you talk about the bigger cuts, we know the math. Many states who expanded Medicare have a trigger that if it goes below 90%, all the Medicare expansion goes off in that state and millions of Americans will be hurt. That's not right, guys. That's not right. And so this is the choices we have before us. Our veterans and the VA. I'm mad at you now. You made me get very emotional with your story. We read John McCain's story. We read the stories of the poems of the unknown soldier looking over us and saying, what are you doing to the Gold Star families? What are you doing to the veterans? Are you living up to your promises that you made? Well, right now, with the cuts of tens of thousands, over 80,000 veterans who work for the VA, but even more, because about 20% or so of all federal workers are veterans. And we read stories from veterans in America who are shaken by what's happening, who are losing their jobs but yet all they want to do is serve. They're not what they're being called. They're not leeches. They're not criminals. They shouldn't be degraded for wanting to continue to serve their nation. This is what we're talking about, our veterans, our seniors, our health care, our financial security going forward. I asked the question to all those people who voted for Donald Trump, who believed in him that he would lower your grocery prices. I asked you, look at your financial self. Are you better off than you were 72 years ago financially? Well, the answer for most people who believed in him is no, because he didn't set out to do anything to lower prices. He set out to rename the Gulf of Mexico, to threaten Canada, to say I'm going to take over Greenland. He's done a lot of things, 140 executive orders. Many of them actually drive up your costs, make it more expensive to enroll in the ACA, reduce a lot of the tax credits there, increased your costs, taxed your bedrock services, stock market tumbles, your 401k accounts are less, inflation is up, consumer confidence is down. This is what the voices we brought into this chamber, the voices of our constituents, red states, blue states, the voices of Democrats and Republicans, Republican governors, Democratic governors. We brought all the people that are saying, no, this is a moral moment, not left or right, right or wrong. And so I've tried over the last 25 hours and 1 minute to center the conversation back on what will we do of good conscience. People who are saying, I served this country, I risked my life, shouldn't be able to keep my job. People who are saying, this country once made itself the envy of the world because we invested in high-quality education for every child. I don't like what's going on at the end of the Department of Education. People who are saying, I worked harder than I ever have, but the prices on everything in my life are getting higher. People who are saying that the America I learned about in school, the one where people's rights are protected, the people are saying that why are we yet again going through another healthcare battle that threatens millions of people, the people are saying that I'm worried about the financial security and the future of my country, the voices of folks.
Why would any normal person watch this? I mean, abnormal television-loving libs love this. Look at this. They love this shit.
I don't know how to stop us from going down this road. Chuck Schumer's now told me that they're greasing the skids to do these things. I'm sorry. But I know who does have the power. The people of the United States of America. The power of the people is greater than the people in power. It is time to heed the words of the man I began this whole thing with, John Lewis. I beg folks to take his example of his early days where he made himself determined to show his love for his country at a time the country didn't love him, to love this country so much, to be such a patriot that he endured beatings, savagely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, at lunch counters, on freedom rides. He said he had to do something. He would not normalize a moment like this. He would not just go along with business as usual. He wouldn't know how to solve it. But there's one thing that he would do that I hope we all can do that I think I did a little bit of tonight. He said for us to go out and cause some good trouble, necessary trouble, to redeem the soul of our nation. I want you to redeem the dream. Let's be bold in America, not to mean and degrade Americans, not divide us against each other. Let's be bolder in America with a vision that inspires, with hope that starts with the people of the United States of America. That's how this country started. We, the people. Let's get back to the ideals that others are threatening. Let's get back to our founding documents, that those imperfect geniuses had some very special words at the end of the Declaration of Independence. It was one of the greatest in all of humanity declarations of interdependence. When our founder said we must mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We need that now from all Americans. This is a moral moment. It's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.
Goddamn. Powerful moments from the Senate floor as Democrats erupt in thunderous applause after 25 entire hours of Cory Booker protesting against the Trump administration by doing a 25-hour filibuster that was not actually filibustering against or delaying against any sort of bill that was going to pass.
Thank you to the pages. Thank you to the parliamentarian staff.
And now he's now he's calling out the gift subs. 25 hours. Least yappy vegan. So, as I've said already, and I tweeted about this on my profile, I think ultimately it's not a bad thing that they are doing these kinds of optical actions rather than no action whatsoever. I said, I do like that the Dems are finally doing something, and it's clearly popular, but this filibuster should have been a real one against the CR that Schumer whipped cloture votes on. There's a lot of real appetite from the base for resistance. Hope it's not just for optics. Overall, I'm not going to criticize Democrats for finally doing anything, and clearly the analytics show that the base wants this. If it doesn't go beyond optics, like Nancy kneeling with a kente cloth, the Dems are going to get pummeled again. That's it. Show maid Hasan? No, I will not be showing myself as a sexy maid. You've seen it under my replies every single time. Now, there's a lot that gets lost, and before people say, because I saw some liberals on Twitter being like, you would love this if Bernie did this. Dog, I've also criticized and demanded more from Bernie Sanders and AOC as well, as they go out all across the country and do these kinds of demonstrations, these meetings, these rallies. The people need more. There needs to be more than just words at this point.
A proud Iowan. He is a dedicated public servant, an accomplished leader, a loving father.
Okay. Anyway, the point I'm making is that this is good. The bar is in hell, and Cory Booker today cleared it. Okay? He cleared it. And the Democrats are giving a tremendous amount of praise to him for clearing that low bar that is already in hell. Why do people keep saying that about you? Saying what about me? That I'm a sexy maid? Is that what you're talking about? Or that the bar is in hell? What are you talking about? You're wrong on this one. Yeah, they'll use any enthusiasm to cynically push more lib bullshit, and you know it. No, that's my suspicion as well. But I don't want to be fucking angry and cynical all the time. Okay, give me an opportunity to hope, please. The audacity to hope. Barack Hussein Obama. That's it. I don't think so. I don't think that the Democrats are going to learn a lesson from this, that that they need to do more to resist against the Trump administration. I think the lesson that they're going to learn is if the Dem caucus did half as many hours of each filibusters, they would grind the Senate gears down to a stop for weeks. What Booker did was great, but we need the rest of the caucus to stand up too. That's number one. Number two, that would actually be a hurdle. That would place a hurdle in front of congressional action, which would be good. Okay? That's what we need to do. We need to place hurdles against congressional action and use every moment that you place hurdles against congressional action with good messaging that revolves around key policies that the Trump administration is enacting, the harms that they're committing against the American population. No politician is perfect. This is what annoys me against some fellow leftists is y'all can't create coalitions if you're unwilling to give flowers where due. Most people are not courageous, and Booker's filibuster is objectively an act of courage and protest. Okay, I wouldn't go that fucking far. What do you mean? It's an act of protest for sure, but what do you mean it's an act of courage? The person that you're talking about got $750,000 from AIPAC, entertained Yoav Gallant, is an unimaginably pro-Israel congressperson, and is directly in the pocket of Big Pharma, as he's a New Jersey state senator, and Johnson & Johnson is a major donor for him. Okay, calm down. I might know a little bit more than you do about Cory Booker's background, perhaps, especially considering that I am also originally from New Jersey. Having said that, as I've also maintained, as I've also repeated over and over again, it's not a bad thing. What he did was objectively good. But I also must caution folks, to not think that this is it. You know, we need to do more. That's it. Rare Hasan L. Oh, okay. Many of you that have liberal leanings and liberal tendencies have said this to me time, and there's a reason why you're still in here, and there's a reason why you go, okay, maybe you were wrong, maybe you were right on this, and maybe I was wrong on this. Okay? My fear and my caution here is simply, and it's not even about the fucking Yoav Gallant pro-Israel dick riding shit, okay? My fear here is that the Democrats have two options. They look to left populism coming from Bernie, and they look to what Cory Booker did here today. Both are optics focused. Both are not direct, tangible action, okay? I love Bernie Sanders and AOC, and they're the closest to me politically, even though I have many disagreements with them, including Bernie Sanders specifically on Israel. Having said that, I have great respect for them, and yet, I have also cautioned that the rallies that they hold all around the country are good. It's good at getting people excited. It's good at getting people enthusiastic. But if it stays there, then it's not enough. If it's not associated with some kind of organizing initiative, then it's not enough. Then all you're doing is experiencing catharsis. So if I have that same criticism for Bernard Sanders and AOC, then of course I'm going to have that same criticism, if not more, for someone like Cory Booker. It's good that he did this. I hope the takeaway from the Democratic Party for these actions isn't, oh yeah, we can symbolically stand and do a filibuster against no bill whatsoever and just talk. And then people will get excited for us once again. People will give us money once again. If that's the takeaway here, then this country is cooked. Because it doesn't meet the standard of what the Republicans are doing. It does not meet the standard of what the Republicans have done so far and what they plan to do. It's a shit ton of violence that they're enacting on a daily basis. You understand?